get by. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Weisz.
Dr. Jeremy Weisz here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. We have Ryan Redding. He has the podcast Blue Collar CEO and DP Marketing.Services company. I'll formally introduce you, Ryan, in a second. Before I do, I always like to mention past episodes people should check out. We have a mutual friend, Adi Clevitt, one of my favorite episodes, actually. And I was listening to your guys' episode this morning. It was fantastic. The episode was on how to save hundreds of hours a month using productivity tools, because you both geek out on systems and she loves productivity tools. So check that episode out. Her company's bizsuccesscg.com. So if you need systems built for your company, she is a pro. And Matt Zalk, another Tulsa entrepreneur, and he's head of Key Renter Property Management. They're an easy button to manage single and multifamily residential properties for investors. Check that one out too. That was a good one as well. And this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships. How do we do that? We help you run your podcast. We're an easy button for helping you launch and run your podcast. Ryan, for me, we know each other a bit over time. And the number one thing for me in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. I found no better way to do that than to profile the people and the companies I most admire on this planet, have them on, and introduce to the world what they are working on and what they're up to. So if you've thought about podcasting, you should. If you have questions, go to rise25.com. We've been doing it for over a decade, so happy to answer anything that you throw our way. I am excited to introduce Ryan Redding. He's the founder of DP Marketing Services. That's dpmarketing.services if you want to check out his website. They're a full-service digital agency for home services companies, and we'll talk about how he got into that niche. And he also is the author of the book on digital marketing for plumbing and HVAC contractors, and the host of the popular home service podcast, Blue Collar CEO. Ryan, thanks for joining me.
Dude, it is so good to be on here, man. And circling back, you do a fantastic job as a connector, because like Adi, Matt and I, we're having coffee, I think next week. Like there's so many ways that you have introduced us. You actually introduced us. We started doing the EOS implementation for our business, and we got connected through you.
Dan Zawacki.
Yeah, Dan Zawacki.
Dan the Lobster Man.
What's up, Dan? You are a fantastic people connector, man. So
thank you.
Kudos.
So I have up, if you're listening to the audio, I do have Ryan's podcast page. You can check it out, bluecollar.ceo. And I want to know some of your favorite episodes.
Man, there's so many. I always like it when we get people on who are like really smart and really clever and really funny. The first person that I would probably come to mind is a guy named Caleb Gilliams. Caleb is, he looks like he's 17, but he's like a financial whiz. And we were connected and had him on the show. And in the process of like talking to him, thought, holy crap, this is a really cool human, smart dude, understands financial stuff more than most people like ever will, and turned into a friendship. And I totally had that first introduction through this particular Blue Collar CEO episode. Another friend of mine, Leslie Harpool. Leslie's been on several episodes, different context, but same thing. We've like developed a friendship through it. There's one that recently aired, which is a lot of fun, where we pulled in several marketing companies together. Obviously at DP Marketing, we do marketing, shocker. But we had several direct competing companies doing marketing all in one episode. And it was just so much fun to hear different theories, strategies, approaches, ideas, personalities, all present in one conversation. If someone has ADHD or something similar, it's going to be off the rails a bit, but so much fun. I mean, there's a lot of really great episodes. So obviously marketing, finance, leadership, if it's a business growth topic, it probably gets addressed somewhere in our library.
Love it. So check those out. Ryan, the topic of companies in general, right, is niche. How do you choose a niche? And if again, you're looking at the video here, we're looking at Ryan's website, dpmarketing.services, marketing that works for HVAC and plumbing contractors, right? It's very specific. And I know your background actually is in marketing, and you worked for a big agency way back when. How did you get to HVAC and plumbing contractors?
Honestly, this story is like so weird because we landed here entirely on accident. I several years ago, I was working as a consultant for a university in Oklahoma, and part of my job was to like advise local small businesses with anything about aspects of the business they wouldn't have the knowledge or experience to be able to do. So it could be payroll, it could be tax structures, it could be like marketing strategies, whatever. Think about a Main Street small business, and I would like consult with whatever sort of concern, problem, challenge they had. So think of like wherever you live, like wherever this person listening now is at listening, like think of like the bakers, the chiropractors, the self-storage facilities all along Main Street, and they all probably have really crappy websites. So early on, it was, you know what? Let's just like help these people with like how to hire, help them with like growth strategies, help them with inventory control systems or risk prevention, like help them like learn how to do those things and develop those skills. And at the same time, go, you know what? Let's do like websites that don't suck but that are affordable. And so early on, it was like, let's just do really low cost websites. So it was like for $100 a month, you know, build a website, host it, like whatever. And so to this day, we have like bakers, chiropractors, self-storage places, like still on our books with these like really decent looking websites for Main Street business. One of the guys that we landed in this season was a plumber. There was nothing special about this guy. He was just one of a dozen Main Street like industries. And once we launched his website, he had just a significant, like dramatic impact on his business. He went from, my numbers might be wrong, I want to say he was 150K top line revenue the year we met to, I think this year he's just under 5 million in revenue. Like he just had this like gangbusters sort of like exponential growth. And he was the first person to say, you know what, Ryan, you just got to stop worrying about all these other guys. You're spending way too much time worrying about like how people choose a chiropractor. You just got to focus on plumbers and HVAC guys just like me, because we don't know what we're doing. We need to phone the ring. And obviously you don't suck. And so, I mean, honestly, candidly, I tell people like I wrestled with this decision because I'm not like manually tool oriented, right? Like I don't have calluses in my hands from like working on like tools in my garage. I don't have this awesome shop. I'm just not handy. And it didn't feel like, how would I be able to connect with someone who's a plumber or an HVAC contractor? I know nothing about those things. And wrestled with it and realized that I think this guy's on to something. So we kind of started niching down just to focus on plumbing, HVAC, electrical, and have not looked back. And that was hands down the best advice I've ever been given. The power of the niche. It's legit. It is true. And there is more. What is he saying? There are riches in the niches. It's like it's a really powerful effect to have.
I thought you were going to say something different, Ryan, when you're talking about wrestling, because at least for me, when I think about it, some people get worried about alienating other types of clients. Like,
oh, you do?
Oh, you know, I don't want to, pigeonhole myself. I want to open it up, but by pigeonholing yourself, you also become known as the expert as well.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, right? One, you're a one-off. Two, two, you're in competition with yourself. And three, now you're an expert. And so once you do it a few times, you get very, very damn good at what you do. And yeah, there totally is this kind of fear of you're turning down money. And hell, look, we turn down a lot of business who are outside of our lanes. But we do it because we know we can maximize the probability for success for the people we focus on. And we only show people what we're good at, right? We're not having to like figure crap out for somebody who comes up who's a baker. A friend of mine actually just recently released a book on this. It's called Niching Up.
I was literally just about to mention that. Yes.
Yeah. So Chris Dreyer, if which I just saw yesterday, is like on the Wall Street Journal. Was it Wall Street Journal's like top 10 bestsellers right now? It's crazy. Yeah. Here we go. So this guy,
Niching Up, the narrower the market, the bigger the prize.
It is awesome. And we're looking right now, if you're on audio, we're looking at the Amazon page. We got to link this somewhere, but I've got a review somewhere in there. Like I was one of the first people to review this book. I was honored to be able to have the chance. But But Chris is another guy because he just does digital marketing for personal injury attorneys and specifically SEO marketing for personal injury attorneys. So not only does he niche his target customer, he niches his service. So it's like he doesn't do websites, he doesn't do Facebook. He's just like, nope, I only do SEO and I only do it for these people. And he's damn good at what he does. Yes, you do turn business away, but by turning business away, you can get very, very deep where you are, and there's plenty of room to grow there.
I told Chris I'm waiting for the audio version to listen to.
Did you hear who's reading this, the audiobook?
No.
I'm not going to tell you. He would get pissed off if I told you. I'm not telling you. Let me just say.
Is it public? Is not public?
It is not public knowledge.
It's like James Earl Jones or something.
I will neither confirm nor deny. However, I will say when you see the audiobook come out, you will go, holy crap, that's baller.
Chris goes big or goes home. So I don't doubt it.
100%. So Chris, if you're listening to this, man, I'm 100% envious of everything that you're doing with this. Congrats on the success. But yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Totally jealous of who's reading his audiobook on it.
On your site, Ryan, with marketing that works for HVAC and plumbing contractors, you have dominate the internet, get more calls, maximize profits. And, I imagine there's a lot of, you do full service for these companies, and a lot of holes that you have to fill, right? And I remember you talking on video that you can generate tons of calls, but if the company only answers 20% of them,
oh gosh,
there's holes. So talk about best practices and actually answering the calls and how you fill some of those holes when you're doing your job and you're like, well, this thing isn't working, Ryan. Well, you're only answering like 20 out of 100 calls that we're sending your way.
Yeah, it's a big deal. So there's a joke in marketing that great marketing makes a bad product fail faster. So you can get all the interest and all the attention and all the exposure and all the leads coming in you want. This is true with any industry, not just plumbing or HVAC or something else that lives on the phone. Regardless of the industry, you can get all this attention, all these customers or potential customers reaching out to you. And if you are not prepared to follow through after that point, you will be royally demolished by what's going to happen next. So in my case, a lot of people in the trades, they kind of, how about this? It's not just people in the trades. A lot of companies assume that the customer, they assume the customer's state of mind, that their emotional state, and they forget that their customers have like emotions, and the emotions are often the primary driver behind whatever action. And so in the case of plumbers are a great example because nobody listening or watching right now woke up today thinking, I'm going to Google who the plumbers are around me just for like giggles.
Just in case something happens.
No one does.
Right.
Literally, no one does that for fun. It's only when something literally has gone wrong. There's water in the basement, step into the shower, it's cold, whatever. So these people, in our case, if they're wanting a plumber, they're pissed off. They're annoyed because they're going to have to stay home from work. They know that these guys charge a lot. And they're like, great, how much is this going to charge? If it's a woman, they're afraid they're going to get taken advantage of, similar to going to like a car mechanic or a car dealer. Sorry if you run an auto shop or a car dealer. People don't love usually going there. Or if you're a dude, one of the things that we found is that a lot of guys feel really inferior and really embarrassed having to ask for help. That society says you should know how to do this. You should know how to replace a garbage disposal on your own, manly man. And so you have like all these emotions going to play. And then if they finally get the gall, pick up the phone to call you, and the first thing you say is, well, bro, I'm sorry, that customer doesn't trust you. Like they're already pissed off and annoyed and stressed, and you just kind of like ignored it. One of the things that we try to teach our people is one, answer the phone within 30 seconds. Don't make these guys wait on hold. Don't send it to like 14 call trees. Like don't get on the stupid call and answer with a smile, answer with confidence, and have a lot of empathy in your voice. So there's coaches that we refer people to who actually just focus on tactical empathy on engaging with customers. Train your CSRs how to say things like, oh no, you stepped in the shower. That sounds awful that it was cold. Let's see if we can't help you get fixed up right away. That sort of response addresses the emotional need so that then you can focus on like the tactical part of, okay, let's get out to the house and actually sell them something. so that our business makes money. But if you don't address the emotional component first, there is no step two. So a lot of these guys like just feel like, oh, leave a voicemail, like let it roll the voicemail, I'll call back later. I mean, I don't know how to say this. This is no longer 2005, 2006. People are not leaving a voicemail for something that they feel they're in crisis mode for. They're going to go to someone else who actually answers their stupid phone. So you get one shot to make an impression, make it happen. So it's one of these things that just, it's so easy for a business owner to forget how the customer feels when they're trying to do business with you. And the more dialed in people can become, like business owners, the more dialed in they can become to their customer's journey and their mindset, the more powerful impact they're going to see in both their top and bottom line, hands down.
I love how you think about how does the customer feel and address that emotional need first. And that immediately establishes trust. And they don't even know what kind of service you provide or the cost of it, but they will trust you for empathizing with their situation. And we do forget. I mean, you forget. I owned a chiropractic practice for years, and people, you almost have to think about the state that they're calling in, like they're in pain, and they may be annoyed just because they're in pain, not at you in particular. So it's the same scenario here.
I mean, chiropractic medicine is kind of one of those that I often use as an example. And so I'm going to sound like an idiot to you, but I went to a chiropractor several years ago, and I was like dealing with migraines, and they started rattling off this list of like European sort of procedures that they've been certified in, like all this very fancy technical medical sort of lingo. And it went over my head. And all I literally wanted them to say was, we can fix your migraine. Like, just
it's that
tell
simple.
me
Exactly.
Tell me that you can solve my pain. I don't care any of the mechanics behind the scenes, like all your certifications of fancy degrees. I don't care. Can you fix this? Yes or no? And when there's clarity there, it makes a world of difference. One of the tools that I like to lean on. In fact, we're looking at our website right now. Our website went through this process called StoryBrand. There's a book called by Donald Miller, which is actually called, gosh, I'm stumbling over my words. What is a story brand, and kind of building out this framework to help address the emotional response and creating this like journey for customers to walk through. Highly recommend picking up the book, reading the process, just to start opening your eyes to how important telling these stories and connecting on an emotional level is for your customer.
And, we talk about that, getting the head of your customer. You used to own a direct response company and sold it. So what did you do there with that?
So that was, I feel like I learned a lot in that. So that was, we primarily did direct mail. It was primarily for the automotive industry. And one of the things about that was, it was, how do I say this? It was just very mechanical, right? You're just trying to get an impulse thing. And automotive is an interesting thing because there's just a lot of puffery already in the space. There's a lot of best deal of the century, best whatever, best this, lowest price X. There's just a lot of that. So you just have to find the right impulse trigger that people respond to. So luckily exited that right around 2008 when the economy started tanking. So it kind of made a convenient sort of like, and what's next? Because things are going to be shaking up quite a bit. So it was, there was a lot to be learned there.
I think direct response is the foundation for a lot of things. I mean, it's foundation for emails we send. It's foundation for the marketing, exactly what you were talking about. So I'm sure a lot of your chops come from doing tons of direct response, and it's more expensive to send direct mail. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to send this. You can send this email. It doesn't cost any money, quote unquote, but it does cost time and attention. But you really have to cut your teeth on just spending large amounts on physical mail that you're putting stamps on and getting a response. So you can apply that to what you do for these companies in Google and all the other places on their website too.
The thing with direct response that I might add is, I think some people get really confused and how it should be used. I feel like there's a lot of confusion of like, hey, as soon as you send somebody a postcard or a letter or whatever, that magically customers come in. But it still goes back to that same sort of emotional question of like, why do I care? Like, what problem is this solving? And so many postcards that I get, like if I go out to my mailbox today and start rifling through stuff, so many things are focused on the company and not the customer. I gotta tell you, if it's about the company, those things land in the trash. I don't even process the logo or the name of the business. I don't care. But when they focus on me or my experience, what I'm going through, 100%, that thing's getting read 100% of the time. And in the world of like direct response to direct mail specifically, that's the game, like to prevent the default action of going to trash.
Well, we were talking before we hit record about really one thing that's important to you is focusing on the experience. And that could be for your clients or your clients' clients. And we talked a little about answering the phone. What else do you think about when you want to really provide the best experience?
So yeah, this is a big thing that I've been obsessing over for the past couple of years. When I think about the most successful companies who have made an impact on our culture, on the business dynamics that we currently exist in, each and every one of them focus on the kind of experiential component. So it's not necessarily the widgets or the cogs or the product service. They're focusing on how those things make somebody feel. Disney is a great example. It's kind of a cliched example, but they're so hard to ignore when it comes to experience. They have a book that they wrote several years ago called Be Our Guest. If you haven't read it, totally worth a read. And it talks about how they approach this like customer experience process for all their teams and all their departments and all their parks in an unscripted way. So it's not about say these words or do these things or like, I love you, Adi, but it's not about like process mapping out when this happens, then do this. It's about this more organic sort of mindful exposure to creating a story and letting your customers be the hero of their story. There are other companies like Apple. Apple's fantastic. Again, borderline cliche. If you look at ad copy or if you look at product release things like 10 years ago from Android, Android is all about like, look at all the features, look at all the RAM, look at all the battery, look at our big camera. Wow, wow, wow. Hey, by the way, buy two, get one free, buy two, get one free. It's all like nerd specs or discounts and promotions. And then Apple came out and they're like, yeah, screw that. They're not going to have the best processors, not going to have the biggest battery. They're not going to have the fanciest camera, but you're going to feel like a badass. Like you're going to feel better than people who are on these other things. And they're focusing on from the moment you open an Apple package. And if nobody's ever purchased something from Apple, do it. I don't care what it is. Buy something from Apple just to get the experience of opening the box because they master that experience. But from the moment you get the box and open it, everything about it is very well thought and cared for. And so you've seen over time, like Android has learned to kind of imitate some of those things. So if I look at like the Android product release events, a lot of them kind of are starting to steal some of the ideas that Apple pioneered 10, 20 years ago. But again, they're focusing on the experience of the customer. It's the emotional journey. It's not the mechanics of the thing. This is true with vehicles. Most people don't buy the sexiest vehicle, the most technically advanced vehicle. They buy the vehicle that makes them feel a certain way, right? People buy Tesla not because of how Tesla does its manufacturing capabilities, but they feel like they are somehow better than other people because they're early adopters on this really crazy technology. And this is where people buy Ferraris, right? Like across the board, people want to feel an experience. So all this is to say, like the companies who nail it make a massive impact. It is really easy for all companies and all industries to take the customer experience for granted or to forget how important it is. Plumbing's a great example because it's so clearly obvious, right? If you wake up today, walk down to your basement and there's water all over your basement, you're feeling all sorts of things that are not warm and fuzzy. If a company answers the phone warm and receptive, if they seem empathetic to your condition, if they come out fast and they're responsive, if they seem like they're anticipating your needs, maybe they even bring up like, hey, this is the plumbing problem, but we're going to bring in these other things to help make this even better, provide solutions to help like remodel the basement, right? Anything to say not only are they like meeting the bare minimum need, but they're making sure that you feel taken care of and feel valued. And by the time it's done, they might send you a gift in the mail. They might send you a handwritten letter. They might send you something that reminds you of them. Your customers now feel important. And when companies can understand that that experience matters, that's when you start creating this like really evangelical sort of persona. And your evangelical customers, you're going to have higher lifetime value. You're going to have higher referral rates. Average ticket price is going to be higher. Everything's going to be better if you can turn your customers from like reluctant to evangelical. And the companies that do that well win, hands down.
I mean, Ryan, it's funny when you're talking about this. I experienced this exact thing myself where someone slammed into my car and I had to get some major repairs done. And I remember now calling 3 different places, and I chose a place based on the front desk reception because they were totally matching my emotional needs. Like the car was 2 days old and it got crushed when someone slammed into me. And I remember after the fact, now that you're talking about it, that I chose the company based on how the receptionist was answering my questions and talking to them. I didn't know if they were the best out of the 3, but it does reflect the process of the company, I imagine. So in a sense, I'm kind of choosing a good process, or maybe they just hire really well too, which also reflects maybe they hire, repair people and mechanics really well. But that's how I chose. And it was a huge job, right? So any of them, if they met me where I was at and kind of talked to me about my emotional state, would have had me go there.
Yeah. So that's a great example. And I think a lot of business owners get caught up on emotions being warm, fuzzy, like these kind of abstract ideas, especially if they're people that are really process oriented. Like, so our director of operations, guess what? He's an ops guy. It's black and white. They're like the idea of like emotions and mindfulness and that experience. It's a difficult concept to talk about in the abstract. As soon as you can make it tactical, all those lights start firing. And so there's a book that's a popular book that everyone talks about, but Never Split the Difference.
I wrote down Chris Voss right as you're talking about that. Yeah,
100%.
Love it.
That's Chris Voss's sort of concept, right? It's you're using empathy, right? Empathy is the primary lever, but it's tactical. So it's not just like being warm fuzzy. You're not just making unicorns and marshmallows and rainbows. It is for for his case, it's for the outcome of the FBI, but you can also apply those for the outcome of your business. I can use it for employee engagement. You can apply it to like hiring and retention, like any of these things. This sort of like tactical empathy will give a company a significant advantage over companies who do not understand and practice those things. And so, yes, there's 100% process things that drive that. Yes, there's some hiring things that drive that. I think it's a cop-out for people to say, well, I can never do that because I can't hire X talent or whatever, right? And the best example for this is if you ask most people what their favorite fast food quick service restaurant is across the board, I don't know if this is statistically true. I feel like anecdotally, most people are going to say in the top 3 is going to be Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, exceptional service, really fast and consistent food. They always say, my pleasure. The lemonade is off the chain. Like all those things are true. And they are often always built and operated successfully within walking distance of a McDonald's or a Whataburger or whatever else. They have the same employee pool that they have access to. They're not like flying people in. They're not like, well, they're in nicer parts of town. Like, nope. They have the same limiting capabilities, but in that case, their processes and their culture give them a significant advantage over this. We're chasing all sorts of rabbits. Avoid the temptation to make the cop out of, I don't have the right employees to do this. That 100% may be the case. More than likely, it's a leadership problem. You either have not led the team to do that, you've not provided the tools, capabilities, resources, training to do that, but you have not modeled that value that your employees are paying attention to. So before you blame anyone else, like point that finger inward, it sucks, and deal with that first.
I love that you mentioned Chris Voss. So I highly recommend everyone check out his book. I did an episode with him. It's about an hour, and I did my best to kind of capture things in the book, but it's not replacing the book. I think I listened to that book twice. I listened to his master class, and he talks about exactly what you were saying, Ryan, about one concept, like you were saying, make it tactical. He talks about labeling it, right? And so a customer service could they could just get all the information, just repeating back and labeling, oh my God, it sounds like that's terrible. Or repeating back, oh my God, you got hit after 2 days. He went through this scenario in the masterclass where he didn't say anything about himself, but he kept just labeling the person's emotion and then repeating back, what they were saying. And the person went on for 15 minutes and just felt heard and understood. And so those are some kind of tactical things. And I think maybe he should be on your podcast at some point if you think he's a fit. So,
that would be baller. If you want to make that introduction, that'd be insane.
I'll reach out to him. He's great. So check out his book. And I want to highlight, Ryan, what you do as a company, and on your website, on the homepage, there is Russell Furr is on there. Right. Yeah. And he says, get off the fence. You're costing yourself money by not calling VP marketing services. What kind of work did you do with Russell?
So Russell, gosh, there's so many guys that we have that are stories like Russell, but Russell's an interesting guy where when we first met him, he was just going into business for himself. I want to say like he either just opened shop or like within that week was like getting his LLC and hanging a shingle, right? Like new in business. And when he called us. And we're talking, I'm like, he's got all these huge dreams and hopes and ambitions. Of course, everyone starting a business has like huge dreams. And I challenged him hard. I'm like, bro, you're saying this and this. I don't know. This is like really lofty. And I'm just trying to like throw a wet blanket on this guy's hopes and dreams. And his response was fantastic. He was like, look, I've done my research. I know the market's here. The competition isn't. I know there's a customer base. I know the customer base can afford me. Here's my plan. Here's how we're doing pricing. He had everything mapped out. From like a traditional business consultant standpoint, I would call it like a business plan. He had a business plan. It doesn't mean that it was like written into a document that the bank would accept. That's not the point. The point is he wasn't making crap up as he went along, right? He had a plan for what he's going to do and he was going to set out to do it. And so when we started working with him, he was a great example of he knew that marketing could not solve operations problems, that he had to deal with the operation side of the business. We could coach and poke and like hold accountable all we wanted. But at some point, he had to realize the role of marketing is not the role of operations, that they are separate and they are supporting and complementary of each other. But he had to do the ops. We had to do the marketing. But so I think this year he's well over 5 million in revenue, has won business of the year several years in a row. He's the success and the impact he's had in his community is really, really cool to watch. Because here's a guy, I was in Vegas with him just a couple weeks ago, actually. And here's a guy who like dropped out of school, was told he'd never succeed. Like, and in that era, if you don't finish school and go to college, you have no value to the economy, right? Like the only way to be significant is to go to college. And so you have all this social pressure going on top of him saying, like, you'll never amount to anything. You'll never be capable of anything. And the dude has built a very successful business and established a very healthy life for him and his family. They travel more than anyone else I know. They spend their time like living life on their terms. And it is the coolest thing to watch someone go from like this really limiting belief, like in junior high and high school, like you'll never amount to anything, to has exceeded all of anyone who knew him then, their expectations. It has been really fun to be a part of and watching the journey. And as much as if you were to talk to Russell, he would throw a lot of success our way. I think that's Russell being humble. Like, yes, like our team worked their tails off. I'm proud of that, but we are not magicians in a silo. And he was like a demonstrative example of how when marketing and ops come together, amazing things can happen. So he owned his piece of the pie, 100%. He owned his piece of the pie. And it was, to this day, a great partnership. I love working and watching the success they have.
I want to hear what kind of things you do with them. But before we get into that, Ryan, what do you think fueled him, Russell? Like, because it sounds like when we hear those things growing up, junior high, high school, and a little beyond, people are doubting, they don't think you're amount to anything. And there's always varying degrees of that. Was he always a person that was like, I'll show them?
Oh, yeah.
Does that strike you? Yeah.
100%. I think every successful entrepreneur I know has a chip on their shoulder. Like everyone. They're out to prove something to somebody. And I think as people, that's what keeps them driven. That's what keeps them like obsessing over always improving. That's what keeps them like wanting to do something a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit harder, something no one's ever seen before. They're trying to prove somebody wrong. And I think that's what drives a lot of really successful people. That was 100% the case for Russell.
Yeah. Yeah. And it bleeds into other facets. There's a friend who's like really built and in shape. And he always talks about a comment someone made to him when he was in like 6th grade. Like it was probably the person doesn't even remember making the comment. And that fuels him to this day, 30 years later. So what kind of things did you do with Russell?
Russell's kind of the weird way to say it. People always call and they're like, I want the exact same plan you do with Russell. Like thinking it's somewhere magical. It's like, no, we kind of did just the basic stuff that we do for most of our clients. Like we helped him brand his business, built a website. I think we're on website 3 for him at this point. We just had to scale the capabilities and infrastructure as his business has scaled. We do organic SEO. So we help that thing rank. He's in a kind of a rural area and has several counties he services. So we have like a lot of geographic consideration to do. We do things on social media. We do things with press releases. We do things on helping him hit things with video content. So he's always seen as the expert in his communities. As if you think of somebody has a plumbing issue, this is the only solution to think about. So we just did a lot of the things. And now at his current scale, now we're brought up things like paid ads, paid media. So AdWords, Google local services, things like that. Just digital components. We haven't done anything physical, no postcards, no direct mail, no retargeting, no radio, no TV, no billboard, no traditional media, 100% digital. But the thing probably that we challenge them the most on, which isn't our job, but it makes our job a hell of a lot easier. It's focused on, shocker, the importance of having an exceptional customer experience. So we need to know every technician, every CSR, everyone who touches a customer at any time for any reason, that customer is going to have an over-the-top experience. Because when we can get that, we can leverage that in every other way. We can leverage that with Google reviews. We can use the Google reviews to help you rank better than maps. We can use the ranking better than maps to get you more phone calls. Awesome. But without an exceptional customer experience, I can't get those reviews. I can't make Google think that you're better than anyone else if your customers don't think you're better than anyone else. And this goes back to the great marketing makes a bad product fail faster. I can't do anything to make a company get more customers, get more traffic, get more respect and love from Google or whatever search engine that they care about if their customer base is indifferent or apathetic to the business. Start there. Start at wowing the customer. It makes everything else so much easier.
Ryan, I love that. Exceptional customer service. It's your magic playbook. It's your magic playbook for plumbers and HVAC. You just know your customer and your customer's customers so well that, yes, I think you're being humble with, we just do this. But you really know because you've just niched down and you've been doing it for so long. So, smart move on Russell, because sometimes when you're starting out in business, it's not easy to make an investment like that because, there's a lot of other investments you have to make. So good thing for him for just hiring the experts and letting him do what he does best. Last question. Before I ask it, I just want to point people to Blue Collar CEO. You can check it out, bluecollar.ceo. That's Ryan's awesome podcast. dpmarketing.services. Check that out and what he's doing there. Check out more episodes of inspiredinsider.com and Rise 25. There's no conversation that's complete, Ryan, without talking about your crazy schedule. Okay. I've not met anyone, if you want to, you shifted my mindset. And I think after hearing, people think they wake up early, right? if you hear Ryan's schedule, at least it shifted my mindset into what I could be doing. And that's why I love talking about smarter people and people who are doing amazing things like you, because it's about shifting mindset. And when I talked to you about your schedule, it definitely shifted my mindset on what I could be doing better, more productive. So give people a little glimpse into your schedule.
This is where I sound a little bit weird, I think. So
yeah, I always sound a little bit weird, so we're fine. We're good.
Okay, safe space. Safe
Yeah.
space. I always tell people, like, I start my day early. And they're like, oh yeah, I do too. I'm like, okay, cool, that's sweet. My day usually starts somewhere around 2:30. I think today was 2:20. 2:20 in the morning, I get caught up on emails. I'm a huge fan of like scheduling emails into the future. So we have clients in 6 time zones. So any sort of client communication, I want to make sure the client gets it in their optimal time zone. So I pound through everything I need to deal with, schedule them out throughout the day in the client's time zone, hit the gym. I'm at the gym for a couple hours, come home, able to have breakfast. I meal prep every weekend for breakfast. So that's a really quick process. So I'm eating decent food. I'm at the office by 6:30. By 8 o'clock, by the time like everyone else is like showing up to work, I've usually got a good chunk of my day already done. And at that point, now I can focus on supporting the team. So I will usually at that point, like any business, like you can have a map for how the day is going to go, but you don't exactly know it's going to go. But that gives you the opportunity to flex. I flex until about 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And then I'm able to spend time doing whatever I want in the afternoon. I try to be home with my kids when they come home from school. If I have a hobby or meet up with friends or like go grab a drink, whatever. And then I'm usually in bed by 7:30, which makes things like Halloween and New Year's really boring for me because I'm out. But yeah, I tend to just front load my day. I get all kinds of stuff done that most people feel like they struggle to get done once the disruptions of chaos of a workforce starts kicking in place. And people are always like, well, I wish I was a morning person. And then the next thing I go is like, I hate mornings. I hate mornings. I just know that I get a hell of a lot of stuff done when I start that way. And the peace that comes with that and the stress release that comes with that is 100% worth the awkward bedtime. 100%.
You know, I remember, I think it was Mark Devine of SealFit who I interviewed, and he said, you know, what drove him for training wise was he was thinking of someone else in a cave somewhere. I think he was a Navy SEAL training, and that one day we're going to meet. And whoever is better trained is, you know, it's a life or death situation. I kind of feel like the same with you. Like you are, you know, waking up at 2:30, everyone's still sleeping. You're working and doing your thing for 5-6 hours before anyone even wakes up sometimes. So love it.
Yeah. It's I never would have thought that would be my rhythm. Like I remember not being able to go to bed before 2:30, you know, and like it's like, oh, I'm starting my day. But it's kind of cool because like we have a team at this point now, like especially post COVID, a lot of our team is like moved in different parts of the globe. So we have a team in almost every continent. So it's like as teams are coming online, like I'm there. I can hang out and talk with them, whatever. And it's kind of a fun thing to do. But yeah, it's definitely a game changer. And it lets me, once the day starts, for me to be present and focus. Because now I don't have to deal with like all the crap that I know I need to get done. I've got no to-do list active at 8 a.m. Like my to-do list is done. So now it's just being able to be present where I need to be. So it's highly recommend
It's
if somebody is
fascinating.
comfortable.
Fascinating. Yeah. Ryan, I want to be the first one to thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, your knowledge, and everyone check out more episodes. Thanks, Ryan.
Dude, thank you. This is awesome.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.